Oh, it is going to be a party at McMahon Stadium tonight. Sold-out stadium. You're thinking Calgary, Saskatchewan. Many people have no idea how big this rivalry is. You know about it now.
Oh, Dave experienced it firsthand last year. Edmonton, Calgary, Calgary, Saskatchewan, right there. They are trying to make that stadium into Taylor Field right now. It is ballistic.
Well, we can tell you the attendance already. 35,652 sold out. At least 10,000 have made the trip in from Saskatchewan. There are Rider fans everywhere. So you got the big rivalry and the big drama with Henry Burris facing his old team, the team jock that he almost took to the Grey Cup last season.
You know, everyone's talking about Henry Burris, but Dave, I'm not sure that's where the attention belongs. You know, if I'm Neil Green, I'm not liking all this talk about the fact that Henry Burris has gone to Calgary. He's saying, hey, what about me? I was a starter last year coming into the season. I beat him in training camp, beat him out, and proved that I could be. Then I got hurt. Now, Henry Burris plays well in relief, but in relief. Now, this year, the hue and cry out of Saskatchewan was crazy when Burris went to Calgary for more money. But Neil was saying, hey, what's the big deal? I'm still here. I'm the guy. I can get it done, and he is getting it done so far.
He is. Let's elaborate on this quarterback issue a little bit more because I think it is very interesting. For Henry Burris, you can tell the pressure of being quarterback in Calgary has been a little bit overwhelming. For Neil Green, the pressure of being quarterback in Saskatchewan, it's been motivating. I can't help but think for Neil Green, it's a little bit personal tonight because let's face the fact here, Henry Burris makes twice as much the money as Neil Green does. So if Neil Green and the Saskatchewan Roughriders go into this game, do extremely well, I'll tell you right now, Neil Green is going to go out, he's going to get himself a cigar, he's going to have that cigar, and he's going to have a sense of satisfaction that is very difficult to describe.
An expensive cigar.
Oh, yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Schultz, you're killing me, man. You know, Neil Green, the reason he has been so successful and able to smoke those cigars is because his offensive line dominates the line of scrimmage, no matter whether it's Corey Holmes or Kenton Keith. And Kenton Keith, he's back. Corey, thanks for what you did. You're the league leading rusher, but we've got Kenton back, and this causes problems. And for the Calgary Stampeders, because they're not very good against the run right now. This Saskatchewan offensive line controls the line of scrimmage. Look at this. They dominate the league in time of possession and yards per game, and Calgary's struggling against the run. So this whole issue with Henry Burris trying to kickstart the Calgary offense, Dave, it may be completely affected by the way Neil Green and his offensive line controls that line of scrimmage.
Couldn't agree with you more. The Ken Keith factor probably could be the biggest story when this game is over. But the story going in, no question about it, is Burris versus Green. So the Boston Pizza CFL poll question is, do you think Saskatchewan is better off with Neil at quarterback instead of Hank? Simple yes or no would do. Log on at tsn.ca. The results at the half of what we expect to be a good ball game tonight. Here's your starting quarterbacks, brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. You know, I think you're right, Schultz. Neil, you know what he's thinking right now? He's looking over there at Henry Burris, saying, yeah, he is making all the money. He's got all the money over there.
Yes, he is.
And
he's thinking that.
I got a little more love and respect after tonight. We'll see what happens.
Experiencing a green invasion this weekend. The atmosphere, part Labor Day, part playoffs, as the Saskatchewan Roughriders clash with the Calgary Stampeders, and it's a full house at McMahon Stadium. One of the most anticipated games of the young CFL season. Conditions pretty good, a little bit breezy, and there is the possibility of a thunderstorm around halftime. But for the time being, looks like ideal conditions. Danny Barrett has stressed to his team that we got to keep pace. BC and Edmonton have posted wins this weekend, and they need one to stay in that logjam for first in the West. While Tom Higgins disappointed in the performance of his team in Ottawa, called it a step backwards, said we're not as good as we think we are. They'll have to be better tonight.
Well, it's a sellout crowd in McMahon Stadium, but only 2/3 are going to be cheering for the Calgary Stampeders, the home team. About 10,000 cheering for the green guys.
Huge sections here of solid green as Ronnie Jenkins brings it out across the 35. And the script is just about perfect because the man everybody has come to see, Henry Burris, goes to work first.
Yeah, Henry Burris is the starting quarterback that has struggled with the Calgary Stampeders in 3 weeks. Just one win posted, that against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He has not been able to get on the same page with Jermaine Copeland, the other offseason acquisition over from the Montreal Alouettes, and Jamie Crysdale plays in his 209th consecutive game in that O-line.
huge roar when they announced Burris's name, and it was not all positive, as you might expect. Jermaine Copeland with the catch, taken down at the 41-yard line. Fred Perry in for David Benefield with the tackle.
Defensively for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, a couple of changes in the front seven. Fred Perry starts on the defensive end position for David Benefield. Marcus Adams in for Nate Davis, misses his second game. Santino Hall moves from the secondary up into the linebacking core because Ladolfius McCalla is back on the corner.
Starting lineup brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles Heartburn fast. 2nd and 5. Burris into traffic, and Copeland has it in front of David Bush. And an early first down, and the Stampeders have struggled on their early possessions in the first 3 games this year.
They certainly have. In fact, in 3 games, their first possessions, they've only had 1 first down. That's their second in their 4th game. And this is a throw that will give Henry Burris a little confidence out of the gate, something he needs in a big way.
They have been waiting for a statement game from Henry Burris, and he hopes to do it against his old team tonight. Joffrey Reynolds bounced off the pile, and now Reynolds turns it upfield across the 50, close to a first down at the Saskatchewan 48-yard line.
Well, you know Henry Burris is pumped up. In fact, all you have to do to illustrate it is watch this play one more time, because this is usually a play where the quarterback gives the ball away and then just kind of lets him run. Now, Henry Burris is so pumped up for this one, he thinks he's going to come down there and get involved and try and block somebody.
Joffrey Reynolds with a 6.3-yard average this season. Ripped off 9, 2nd and 1, and Burris will plunge ahead behind the offensive line, anchored by Jamie Crysdale.
Well, I'm sure Henry Burris wondering what kind of reception he will get. I mentioned right off the top, there are about 10,000 Saskatchewan Roughrider fans here. Now, usually in McMahon Stadium, there's lots of Saskatchewan fans, but a bunch are over from the province. They bust over just for this game, and they all booed Henry Burris when he stepped on the field. But this is a way to quiet those fans and get your home fans going. A couple first downs.
First down, bunch formation right side. Burris will roll right. In pursuit is Perry, and Henry Burris pulls it down, and he'll step out at the 33-yard line.
Tom Higgins said to me before the game that they changed the tempo of practice. They didn't necessarily go and put shoulder pads on and start hitting each other like training camp. What they did was change tempo. They felt they need to give Henry Burris an opportunity to play closer in practice to gain speed. It looks like it's happening right now for him. He's in a groove early.
But the Stampeders have been effective between the 30s early in this season. It's now getting into the area where they've really struggled. Reynolds plunging ahead on first down, has 3, and they'll try to ride that horse as much as possible tonight after only utilizing Reynolds 7 times for 56 yards against Ottawa, a game they fell behind 20-0, and the running game was taken away.
Yeah, you're pretty much throwing on every down when you're down by that many against the Ottawa Renegades, and you have to keep passing to come back. They'll want to keep Joffrey Reynolds involved early and often in this one.
No David Benefield out with the flu. Nate Davis misses again because of back spasms. 2nd and 7, and Burris flush. Scott Schultz in pursuit. Henry Burris pulls it down, and he'll get to the first down stick and leap out of bounds untouched. And that was another aspect that they wanted to see from an obviously gunned up Henry Burris. Use your legs a little bit more.
Well, is he ever? I mean, you could tell how pumped up he is. Now, he has to be careful with this as well, because in game 1 for the Calgary Stampeders, Henry Burris was pumped up and overthrew his first 3 or 4 passes. Now, it's one thing to be pumped up and run with the football. That's okay. He jumps over the signage on the outside and then comes back and jumps over it again. He's so pumped up. He's just got to be careful he's not too pumped up when it comes to the passing game.
4 first downs on this initial drive of the game for Burris. Fakes to Reynolds, and coming around is Kenyon Rambo trying to turn the corner, and David Bush wouldn't let him cut it upfield. Pushed out at the 17.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders defensively, this is nothing different for them on a game that they have to travel and go and play on the road. Normally the home team will come out of the gates with their scripted plays. They've got the momentum of the fans behind them. They're pumped up because they're at home. And defensively, all you're trying to do is just hold them to a field goal, try and slow the pace down a little bit, and try and grab some of that momentum back.
Rambo got 5, 2nd and 5. And he's looking into the end zone for Rambo, and Burris overthrows the intended receiver.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about in the passing game. It's one thing to be pumped up as a quarterback and use that adrenaline when you're running the football. That's one thing. It's very different when it comes to the passing game, because now he's got to show some composure, and when he gets out there, set his feet and drop that football in there. Kenyon Rambo had good position, and he had about a yard of separation. A better throw from Henry Burris, and that may be a touchdown.
So they moved the ball 56 yards, and now the rookie Sandro DeAngelis tries to keep it a perfect 2005 season, and he does. 9 for 9 to cap a solid opening Calgary drive. I think Stampeders, let's join Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, guys. Check this out. There's about 10,000 plus Rider fans, many of them wearing this shirt to show their disdain for Henry Burris and his decision to go to the Calgary Flames in the offseason. But Burris isn't just feeling pressure from his old team and their fans. He's feeling pressure from his sideline, as Coach Tom Higgins made it known that if he struggles like he has the last 3 games, backup quarterback Jason Gesser could get a shot.
Yes, there's that added heat on Henry Burris tonight, but a 10-play drive to start things. And now Nealon Green goes to work. And Glenn, I think this is as big a game for Nealon Green, and the panel touched on it at the outset of the game, as it is for Henry Burris.
I agree, and Nealon Green had to listen all offseason to all the fans in Saskatchewan, as upset as they were about Henry Burris leaving. And you got to think Nealon Green wants to have a huge game tonight to show him the right quarterback stayed in Saskatchewan.
2nd and 7, they dump it off underneath. Corey Holmes first down, and although Kenton Keith is available, Holmes is the starting tailback for Saskatchewan tonight.
Well, and he's earned that. And so Corey Holmes will start, because coming into this week, Corey Holmes was leading the Canadian Football League in rushing. And so he's the starter, but we will see Kenton Keith a bunch. Travis Moore still in the lineup. Matt Dominguez out. There's your offensive line. G. Mikowski playing a little banged up there at the right tackle.
Mikowski with a broken hand, and Tango McCauley is on the roster in case he can't finish. Elijah Thurman with a catch across midfield, punished as he gets into Calgary turf.
Well, defensively for the Calgary Stampeders, they were ripped by their coach, Denny Crehan, this week, saying that the Ottawa effort just wasn't good enough. They have an outstanding defensive team, great personnel back there, led by Brian Clark in the linebacking core, and a young secondary trying to get it together in a hurry. But Denny Crehan said this week, you got to play better.
Young players have to be better, and there were a number of missed assignments by veterans. 2nd and 3, and Green threw that one low, and Jason French couldn't dig it off the turf.
You know, one thing that Nealon Green did this year is when he was injured at the beginning of the season, and that's another thing that we should remind everybody once more, that Nealon Green was the starting quarterback going into the year, and then broke his leg in the first game versus Toronto. Enter Henry Burris, who went on to have a great season but had a slow start for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. In fact, Saskatchewan was 1-3 with Burris at the helm in the first 4 games of the regular season.
There's Kenyon Rambo. Paul McCallum brings a 37.5-yard punt average into this game. Rambo at his 13. And Rambo up to the 25-yard line after the 40-yard Paul McCallum punt. Henry Burris goes back to work after that initial drive of the game that produced a field goal. They'll start from the Calgary 25-yard line. Working against the number 2 defense in the CFL. Joffrey Reynolds, right side, and Reynolds across the 30 to the 31-yard line. Well, he is the focus of attention tonight, and he likes it.
Well, that just shows me the fans in Regina, they still love me. I know I see a lot of the Rider fans here in Calgary, and they ask me, so Henry, why'd you leave? And I'm like, why did you leave? So really, you know, it's hindsight. It works together. So, but it's fun. It's great for the fans, and it's good to see that. You know, do I want them to hear? You know, do I want to hear them say Henry sucks? Not really, but you know, it actually puts more points on the board for us when I hear that type of stuff.
Well, he's laughing, and he likes that pass to Gerald Harris for another first down for the Stampeders. Harris in the lineup last week, and the former BC Lion with his second catch in this Calgary offense.
You know, and it is good for the rivalry. It throws a whole bunch of gasoline on the fire. This rivalry between Calgary and Saskatchewan, with Henry Burris and all the T-shirts, and then Henry Burris leaving, and apparently leaving because of more money. But I think when you talk to Henry Burris, it's because he was going to get the starting job outright.
Reynolds again on first down, tripped up as he was cut down. Santino Hall at the linebacker spot tonight.
You know, and if you were going to break it down, Chris, and compare the two quarterbacks in their careers, Nealon Green has played a few more games than Henry Burris throughout his career. When you look at the numbers, very similar in yardage if you consider the games, but the big difference is the interceptions thrown by Henry Burris in comparison to his touchdowns. 60 to 53, Nealon Green has a better touchdown to interception ratio, actually, than Henry Burris did.
Passing situation, 2nd and 11. Saskatchewan jump. Burris nailed as he delivered the ball, and it's a catch by Jermaine Copeland. The ball should have been picked off. And it will be a 13-yard first down.
I believe it was Travis Smith, the linebacker, had a great shot at this football. And when you watch the Saskatchewan Roughriders defensively,
penalties declined, first down.
As strong as they've been, number 1 against the run, number 2 against the pass, this team may need to do a few more ball drills, because Travis Smith is yet another Saskatchewan defender to have a football right in his hands and a chance for a big interception, and dropped it.
Now there was an offside, Reggie Hunt, but it was declined. A first down. Stampeders marching again. Burris with the pump, and then stripped of the football. Terrell Juridiak had a shot at it, and Burris gets it back. Knocked out of his hands as he was looking deep.
Well, when you wonder why the Calgary Stampeders to start this season are 1-3, one of the big reasons for that is they're a -7 and 9th in the Canadian Football League in the giveaway takeaway category. Now, Henry Burris will recover this on his own, but it looked like he lost the handle.
Loss of 12 back to the 49. 2nd and 22. And the draw play, Reynolds pounds it up the middle, back into the Saskatchewan side of midfield. He'll be short of the first down, but Joffrey Reynolds off to a good start tonight against Saskatchewan.
Well, and this has been the real positive, bright light for the Calgary Stampeders in their first 3 games has been the play of Joffrey Reynolds, who coming into this one, 244 yards. But what's most impressive with Reynolds has been his average at 6.3. And a lot of Calgary fans would love to see him with the football a lot more.
Saskatchewan has allowed just 30.3 yards a game rushing. We're going to try a 55-yarder here. Kid's been perfect so far, so send him up. Let's see what he can do. Juha's the holder. DeAngelis puts it up. Oh, and he's got it. He's still perfect. Unbelievable. From 55, Sandro DeAngelis. Simply 10 for 10, and now the longest field goal of the year, 55 yards. No sweat.
No sweat at all, and he's pumped up about it and should be.
6-0. Nealon Green finds former Stampeder Travis Moore up at the 50-yard line.
You know, it really is remarkable what Sandro DeAngelis has done this season. And to put it into perspective, here are some of the good kickers in the Canadian Football League and their first years kicking field goals. And you can see that at 100%, you can't get any better than that. And there's some great kickers like Noel Prefontaine and Sean Fleming up there that in their first seasons were not very successful. Ironically, the guy who struggled most this year, Paul McCallum, had his best first season, was the best of that group.
And you saw Duncan O'Mahony, who struggled here in Calgary when he took over from Mark McLaughlin.
But that's truly remarkable when you consider the pressure that is on the kicker, and then you add the fact that he's a rookie, that everybody's watching him, and he's had to make some tough ones. He's already had to make some long kicks in weather. That was his longest and the longest of the year at 55 yards, and absolutely perfect so far.
We saw the preseason game here against Saskatchewan. This guy gets excited when he nails them. Second down with Kenton Keith in, and Green lost the handle. They're calling that a fumble, and John Grace has the ball. Grace down at the 33 as Nealon Green showed the same difficulty throwing the football as Burris on the last series.
Well, you know, Nealon Green did not argue this at all. He didn't go to the official and tell him that his arm was going forward. Take a look. Demetrius Maxey is going to provide the pressure on Nealon Green right there. But he just loses the handle, and it looked like as his arm was going back is when he lost the ball. Not moving forward. That's why they're not calling it an incomplete pass, but a fumble.
Just the second takeaway by the Stamps defense this year. First by that great linebacking core. And now Burris tried to dump it off. Reynolds can't reel it in with Travis Smith in the neighborhood.
Well, the Calgary linebackers heard a lot from Denny Crehan this week that they've got to play better. And you talked about big plays. The Calgary linebackers, you know, they're making tackles. They're flying around doing that. And in fact, they've put pressure on quarterbacks. What they haven't done this year is those big plays. Last year they had 9 fumble recoveries. They had 5 touchdowns.
And now they have their first fumble recovery. 2nd and 10. Burris rolling left, sizing it up downfield. Nick Lewis has it, shakes a tackle. Nick Lewis inside the 5, near the goal line.
Well, that was a tough catch for Nick Lewis coming across the middle. Lots of traffic, and he took a pretty good hit. Didn't go down, shook it off, get right down to the goal line.
And they'll mark it at the 1.
Calgary offensively right now using a lot of rollout and letting Henry Burris go and throw on the run, something he does very well. He gets his shoulders around this time, puts a nice ball right where it had to be because David Bush was right there in coverage. Nick Lewis took a hit, and the Calgary Stampeders are knocking on the door.
Trying to push it in. Reynolds, the lone running back, doesn't get the handoff. It's Burris. Touchdown. Great fake. I bet Henry Burris scores.
Well, that may go down for the Calgary Stampeders under the category of ugly but effective. I think that might have been a broken play. Henry Burris was trying to get it to Joffrey Reynolds, missed the handoff, and he just made it up as he went along and got in the end zone.
What a first quarter for the Stampeders. And now DeAngelis to add the extra point. So they make Saskatchewan pay for the Nealon Green fumble as Henry Burris takes it in. Well, a reminder, we'll have Wendy's CFL Live from Montreal, and this game takes on great importance. The Argos and the Alouettes on Thursday night.
Well, congratulations to Jim Daly and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for their big win. Upset victory over the Montreal Alouettes last night. Henry Burris has got things going and some points on the board early, something the Stamps haven't been able to do all season long. They've been slow starters.
Half minute remaining here in the opening quarter. The two Coreys are deep, Grant and Holmes, as Henry readjusts the contact. DeAngelis puts a heavy foot into that, and Holmes will take it from his 2. And Holmes will step out at the 30-yard line. So the Saskatchewan Roughriders come out on offense needing a response.
Well, Marcel Belfait will discuss this with Nealon Green, and I'm sure what he's talking about is the fact that let's go back to what's been successful all season long, and that's a whole bunch of 19. Now, they have the option to go with Corey Holmes and to go with Kenton Keith in this game tonight, because Tango McCauley will be the designated import on offensive lineman, so he can play 2 import tailbacks. Marcel Belfait will go with that throughout this game.
And right now, Holmes in the backfield. Kenton Keith lined up as a receiver, but comes back and takes it on the reverse. And he's across the 40 to the 43-yard line. A first down carry as Kenton Keith's back in the Saskatchewan offense.
And that's exactly what we just talked about, is that now you can play both of them. It doesn't really matter where they start and line up. Right now they're in single back. You can see Corey Holmes in the backfield. They go with Kenton Keith lined up as a receiver, ends up coming around, and basically it's a running play or a toss or a sweep to the right side.
He had 57 yards in the opening game, but left with a bruised sternum. First down, Keith, not much there. Moving up on the play was the corner, Jermaine Chapman, making the initial contact on Keith. End of the first quarter at McMahon, and a good one for the home team.
Is right here, #1 rushing team in the CFL heading into this week. Held to just 18 yards in the first quarter. Now the Calgary Stampeders last week on defense gave up 245 yards rushing. They look like they've shorted up so far.
And Saskatchewan, #1 in time of possession, but just 4.5 minutes in that opening quarter. But here's a big completion. Corey Grant down the sidelines to the Calgary 38-yard line. And Saskatchewan has its biggest play of the night.
Well, they have to come to the passing game and try and start offensively using the pass to now set up the run. Change things up a little bit offensively for Saskatchewan. That's a big play and a confidence builder for that Rider offense.
So Grant getting the start, and Ben Kelly back in the lineup for Calgary. Corner slipping on the play. Turns out to be a 29-yard gain. First down, Kenton Keith, and he's swamped inside. Nothing there. You know, we said bruised sternum, but it was a more serious injury than it sounds, with a bruising and a rib problem, and it did keep him out for the last few weeks.
Well, there's his last year's numbers, and at 11:54, he only played 14 games, and that's why a lot of people this year thought Kenton Keith possibly get 2,000 yards.
2nd and 10. Keith the lone setback, and now gets the screen, broke a tackle, and away he goes. Kenton Keith down near the 10 when it looked like he might be stopped right on the catch.
Sets up the screen, and Kenton Keith executes it perfectly, because he goes out and looks like he's going to block. Here he is right here. He's going to look like he's going to set up to block, and then he releases. And when he releases, he has one chance to get outside. I believe it's George White misses the tackle right there. Now he's outside, and he's got a convoy. And the 15-yard line trips him up.
And he shows his dismay, but still 26. They knock on the door. From the 11, back to Keith inside. A little hurdle move to the 6.
Well, I don't think for a minute that Nealon Green didn't see that he had that corner on Scott Coe. The progression of this type of play is for Nealon Green to fake the handoff to Kenton Keith or Corey Holmes, and then take it himself out to the outside. He's been running the ball more over the last couple of games. Don't be surprised if you see that play coming up soon.
So Keith checks out. And now they'll utilize a 6-receiver package. On 2nd and 5. Green looks, dumps it off, and a drop ball. Jason French underneath. And that will snuff a touchdown mark for Saskatchewan.
Well, there's a couple things here. One, Jason French just running a little turn, little curl over the middle. And he tried to take a peek and see George White coming. And it was one of those deals where he's looking at George White trying to set up his move and hadn't secured the football just yet.
French and Holmes, the only receivers for Danny Barrett that have caught a pass in each of the 4 games so far this season. Paul McCallum to get Saskatchewan on the board. We're early in the 2nd quarter. Stampeders lead by 10. Danny Barrett's team on the board. But they were threatening for a touchdown until the drop pass by Jason French. They settled for 3. 13-3. Stampeders as they go back to work on offense. And Joffrey Reynolds, not much up the middle. But Glenn, the man clearly in the spotlight coming into this game has been the story so far.
Yeah, he certainly has. Henry Burris has looked more comfortable in this game than any game all season long. I think the way he's done that is by using his feet. He's rolled out a lot, he's thrown on the run, and by doing that, he's allowed to let that adrenaline settle a little bit and just get comfortable with the offense.
2nd and 9, pressure, Burris up for grabs, and it is picked off. David Bush has the ball as it was over the head of Jermaine Copeland. And Bush with his 2nd interception of the year.
Well, right as I say that Henry Burris looks a little more relaxed and a little more composed, and by rolling out, they go to a drop-back shotgun formation, and when they do, Henry Burris makes a bad decision. He throws off his back foot with pressure in his face. He cannot put enough on the football and put it to where he wants. And at the other end, boy, David Bush becomes receiver. What a catch!
Bush back inside this week after playing on the corner for the injured Ladafius McCalla a week ago, and the pressure from safety Scott Gordon helping cause the turnover. Nealon Green back on offense, under pressure, escapes initially, and is finally down. Randy Chevrier puts him away after intense pressure from the linebacking core.
Well, you can see that the linebackers heard the message from the coaching staff loud and clear. In fact, the entire front 7. So far, they've controlled the line of scrimmage, the Calgary Stampeders. They have not allowed Corey Holmes to break out of there and get a big gain in the running attack. And they're putting pressure on Nealon Green, and Scott Coe finally gets to him.
Loss of 3. 2nd and 13. Green looks downfield. Well, they're going to rule no catch. Jason French almost made a circus grab
as he was getting hit by Anthony Malbrough.
And immediately one of the Calgary defenders turned to the Saskatchewan bench.
Well, first of all, you've got to love the effort from Jason French to go up. This ball well overthrown as he goes right down the seam, because number 3's coming, Anthony Malbrough, and actually it's Ben Kelly who puts his right arm under the legs and flips Jason French right here. Looked like when he hit the ground is when the ball came out.
And immediately one of the Stampeder players signaled for somebody at the Saskatchewan bench to get out and help the injured receiver.
Well, did he land sort of part on his shoulder and neck?
That's the
because,
way
yeah, they're stabilizing his head, and when you're stabilizing the head, you're worried about back and neck injury.
You are seeing some movement, which is good news, and Danny Barrett has to deal with yet another injury. We'll take a break and be right back.
Tonight's virtual First Down line is brought to you by General Motors and all its divisions.
Well, we're happy to report Jason French is okay on the sidelines. And the first indication that he was okay is wanted to know if they counted the catch.
And they didn't, so they'll have to punt.
Paul McCallum kicking it away. Here's Rambo inside the 20. Trying to get outside, does, down the sidelines, but did tiptoe out.
Well, you know, a lot of concern with Jason French because they were trying to stabilize his head, and then he sat up, which was the good news. This is the injuries that they're trying to go through right now, and Matt Dominguez already out. Karsten Bailey, another receiver, gone, and they lost Jeremy O'Day a couple of games ago. So that's the offensive side of the ball. Now Jason French goes up. Tons of concern on this hit because it looked like he came down partly on his shoulder and neck, head area. They stabilized his head, but then he sat up. And it was interesting to see the reaction when he found out he asked, was it a catch? And he got the bad news, and that's when we knew he was okay.
Burris back to work, steps up, throws to the sideline. He was looking for Gerald Harris. Incomplete.
Well, that was a small hole to try and get the football in, and it was probably better that it hit Eddie Davis in the back, because if he tries to thread this needle, watch Burris come out here. Now, he's only going to have a small hole to throw this in, and he's got to try and weave it through two defenders. Now, if it's thrown a little bit higher, Omar Morgan has a great chance at interception because he's looking at the ball. So it was better probably that Henry Burris hit Eddie Davis in the back.
Yeah, that's hitting the numbers. It's the wrong one. 2nd and 10. Pressure, Scott Gordon, and Burris got outside. On the run throws, flag down as Brett Ralph makes a catch. He was such a terrific positive in the loss last week, as he was the first Calgary 100-yard man on the year. But again, a flag down in the Saskatchewan backfield.
We'll see what the flag is, but Henry Burris does a real nice job of avoiding safety blitz, because this play has no shot with Scott Gordon coming off the edge.
Saskatchewan 48. Penalties declined. First down.
Illegal contact will be declined, and they'll take the gain. Scott Gordon had a free shot at Henry Burris from the right side of your screen, coming on the safety blitz here, and a little sidestep. We're in Calgary, so a two-step by Burris gets him outside.
17-yard pickup for Ralph. Now over the middle, and a catch is made. Mike Juhas has the reception, back-to-back Canadian receptions.
Well, this is what Burris has done well in this game. Again, the pressure coming from the right side. Here comes Gordon. Watch this little step outside. That gets him outside of containment, because Gordon is the only guy that can keep Burris in the pocket. He got penetration, Gordon did, from the rest of his defensive linemen, but he allowed him to escape outside. First down, Calgary, and they've got another one after that.
Good catch by Ralph, who had 6 for 100 against Ottawa. All 6 providing first downs. There's pressure from Fred Perry downfield, an open receiver, and Kenyon Rambo has the catch at the 21.
That's a heck of a throw from Henry Burris, because I was about to say, once again, he threw it off his back foot. Probably a bad decision, but he got away with it this time because Kenyon Rambo had worked so far to the open. He's thrown with pressure in his face off his back foot, but it took just too long for Saskatchewan, for the Saskatchewan defender to get there. That's the pressure Burris was facing.
In front of Santino Hall, a 28-yard catch by Kenyon Rambo. Stamps threatening, a couple of fakes, and now Burris looks into the end zone, looking for Nick Lewis. Touchdown!
When Henry Burris threw that touchdown pass, he looked right to the Saskatchewan bench, shaking his fist.
Not sure if this is new Jermaine Copeland choreography, but the offensive play was picture perfect.
Well executed, and this is Nick Lewis right here, who's going to work his way to the middle of the field. Henry Burris is going to go with a couple of fakes, one underneath. That draws the linebackers up, so there's no one to throw over, and that ball is dropped right in the bucket to Nick Lewis at the back of the end zone.
First touchdown catch of the season for the top rookie in the CFL a year ago. All Calgary so far. 5 plays, 72 yards. It's capped with the 20-yard touchdown toss from Burris to Lewis.
Well, with the way that drive started with Henry Burris avoiding pressure from the outside and finding Brett Ralph, kept the drive going. I think that may be one of Henry Burris's best drives of 2005 as a Calgary Stampeder.
Corey Holmes from his 15. And Holmes going to do some running up to midfield and across before he is finally brought down by Chapman. 40 on the return in response to that touchdown pass by Henry Burris.
Let's take one more look at it. Here's the matchup, folks, and here's one of the best one-on-one covers in the game in Eddie Davis, and even the best gets beat every now and then. Eddie Davis will settle his feet right here. When he does that, he has got to make contact with Nick Lewis. If you stop your feet moving, you have to make contact. You see he misses Lewis. Lewis gets inside position. Touchdown, perfect throw.
At the Calgary 54, Saskatchewan goes to work. A quick completion underneath short yardage. Catch made by Jason French, and again, good to see that he is right back in.
Henry Burris has struggled, Chris, you mentioned it early, finishing drives off, and in his history, this is where he's made the bad decision and thrown interceptions that cost his team, but not this time. That's a perfect throw. And a little look over the Saskatchewan bench.
Well, just 3 offensive touchdowns coming into this game. Nealon Green in trouble and down at the 50-yard line, right back at the line of scrimmage. And so Saskatchewan unable to capitalize on good field position after the Holmes kickoff return.
You can see the different level that the Calgary linebackers are playing at right now, because Saskatchewan just can't get anything going offensively. The thing that they've been strong with all year is that running game because of their O-line, because of Corey Holmes, and because of the threat of Nealon Green running outside. But Brian Clark has led that linebacking core, and they're ready to play tonight.
Yeah, he missed an assignment on one of those Josh Ronick rumps last week, and Clark doesn't usually have many off plays. This ball skipping into the end zone, and Rambo will concede the single point. So Calgary's lead is now 20-4, a 55-yard McCallum single.
You know, Henry Burris went from the most popular Saskatchewan Roughrider in a long time to one of the most hated. And one of the reasons that everyone loved Burris so much was because of what he did in the West Final last year with 416 yards. And when you look back to Nealon Green's last playoff game in 2003 in Edmonton, he didn't have a good game, and that's why there was concerns with Nealon Green coming in this season and why everyone was so upset that Henry Burris left. Now, as it turns out, Nealon Green has started the season on fire, and Henry Burris has struggled, much to the delight of every fan in Saskatchewan.
First down, Stampeders. Gerald Harris with the catch, and a move inside to get across the 45, and another first down, 11 for Harris in his second catch of the day.
Now, having said that, the Saskatchewan fans are not happy with what they've seen here tonight in the first matchup between these two teams, as Gerald Harris has been involved a couple of times with Henry Burris and had a couple of catches in this game in just his second outing. In for Marte Jenkins.
First down, Stamps. Reynolds, right side. Cuts up across the 50, and Joffrey Reynolds has 5 more. Again, working against the top run defense in the CFL, albeit without 2 key guys up front, Nate Davis and David Benefield.
Yeah, and then that's big. I mean, that's David Benefield, I feel, has started the season, you know, having maybe one of his best years in a long time. And you got Fred Perry in there and Marcus Adams. Now, Fred Perry has some history in the CFL, played in Toronto, played in Edmonton, played in Ottawa. Marcus Adams has had 3 years in Saskatchewan.
2nd and 5, Reynolds, first down.
But, you know, when you look at Marcus Adams, he's been in Saskatchewan three years, and they like him. They think he's got great potential, great upside. Fred Perry, you know, he has 23 career sacks, so he's done some things. But it's no Nate Davis and David Benefield.
No.
And right now, the Calgary Stampeders are taking advantage.
And Adams usually playing out at defensive end. So Calgary's got it all working right now. They're rushing the football, and Henry Burris has been sharp as well. Inside handoff, Reynolds again, and look at him find a hole. Actually ran into one of his blockers and still down inside the 30. And Jermaine Copeland may have slowed him up. So Joffrey Reynolds chewing up the yards. The 3-minute warning in Calgary.
Picked you have from August 14th to October 27th to get your leg right.
You think Sandro DeAngelis can kick for them? Here's Henry Burris. He's got an open man. Nick Lewis at the 15. And another Stamps first down. Burris throwing strikes so far tonight.
You know, the play calling is helping Henry Burris in a big way here tonight. I mean, to get him outside the pocket, allow him to roll out. He's gone with a lot of different formations, a lot of play action with the bunch formation, a formation that the BC Lions use very successfully. And he's mixing it up on offense. That's really helped. The play calling has helped him build this momentum and get in a rhythm.
He called for patience from the Calgary fans, and he's going to call a timeout here. Look at those numbers, 175. We're not done in the first half. His best of the season, 275 in the season opener against Toronto. So he's on his way to his best game by far in 2005.
You see Steve Barato, who's got a little experience working with quarterbacks and that have had a lot of success. You think back to Dave Dickinson and Casey Printers in BC last year, and now he's done a nice job of mixing things up and helping Henry Burris in this game. And Barato has been around the league a long time and understands how to get a guy out of trouble. That's good balance in your offense. 95 yards rushing, 175 passing. That helps the quarterback.
66 of those rushing yards delivered by Reynolds. And this play doesn't get off.
Flag on the play, Stampeder motion.
But you can call and ask for patience, and maybe it's warranted, but it's a tough sell with all the expectations that come when you sign a big contract.
Chris, it's kind of like, you know, when you go to a movie that everyone said is the best movie they've ever seen, and you walk in there and you know, that wasn't that great. It's a very similar situation. Henry Burris is a great quarterback, and he'll be a great quarterback for years. But you're right, coming in this season.
Procedure, Calgary number 50. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Jay McNeil called on that. Coming in this season, Calgary Stampeder fans were talking about a Grey Cup championship. Forget about how long will it take for this offense to get going. We've got a new coaching staff. We've got a new quarterback. We've got a new receiver. How long is it going to take? They were talking Grey Cup.
First and 15 after the McNeil penalty. Riders showed blitz, a hot pattern. Nick Lewis has it inside the 10.
You know, and in this drive, the last two drives have been the best Henry Burris as a Calgary Stampeder I've seen all year. Because he's done it all. He's run a little bit. He's thrown under pressure. He's thrown hot. That's a hot pass over the middle. He's thrown a timing route, the last pass on the sideline to Nick Lewis. And he's thrown off his back foot and completed a long one to Nick Lewis. All of those things indicate that it's coming around for Henry Burris.
75% completion average on the night. 2nd and 3. Reynolds, check that. Jenkins, a first down to the 2. As Ronnie Jenkins comes in and gets 6 yards.
Well, it's interesting because it's a combination of Ronnie Jenkins and Joffrey Reynolds that is similar in some ways to what Saskatchewan has in Corey Holmes and Kenton Keith. And two import backs with different abilities. Jenkins is kind of like Holmes, that can do a lot more, is a lot more versatile. He's pass catcher, can play receiver, can return kicks, and Joffrey Reynolds, a running back, so a lot like Kenton Keith.
They call it the pony offense with both of them. And now Jenkins to the 1. Terrell Jeriniak prevented the touchdown.
And I believe he came from the backside of the play. Just good hustle and a good read. This is instinctive from Jeriniak to come inside quickly and wrap up the legs of Ronnie Jenkins.
Fred Perry, too, off the edge. So 2nd and goal from the 1. 9th play of the drive. Burris has scored 1, thrown for 1, and now pushes ahead, but flag down.
And I don't have the exact stats of this. They're calling him in, but I would bet that 80% of the time the defense is offside in a situation like this.
Usually lining up, encroaching on that 1 yard. And it is offside Saskatchewan, and Burris has his 2nd touchdown of the night.
You can see the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 2 or 3 defensive linemen with their hands well over that goal line. They lined up offside. Henry Burris punches it in, and the Stampeders gallop on.
Yes, they're stampeding tonight. 1:19 to go, first half. All Henry Burris.
The Coors Light Brewing Company asks, can you go too far in the details? Can you care too much about a quality ice-cold, easy drinking taste? And most importantly, how are you gonna blame this one on the summer student? Coors Light, the silver bullet.
Well, just over a minute away, then we'll get the big guys to weigh in on what I think has been an eyebrow-raising first half at McMahon Stadium.
Well, you started to wonder, and I'm certainly not giving Saskatchewan any excuses here for this first half, but you start to wonder when all of the injuries and all the changes were going to start to affect the Calgary Stampeders, and also when this offense in Calgary is going to have a breakout game. People have been saying that now for 3 weeks.
And 3, the appropriate number. 3 touchdowns tonight after only 3 in the first 3 games. See if Saskatchewan can respond before the half as Holmes works his way up across the 40-yard line before he's taken down. And this really is an inverse of last week's first half for Calgary and Ottawa, when late in the first half they trailed 27-4.
Well, this is what Henry Burris has done in this game. He started out all pumped up and trying to make blocks out there. A little play action here, or looked like it could have been a broken play, but he finishes it. Nice throw off his heels into the end zone to Nick Lewis. And this is the capping off the second of what I think has been his best 2 drives as a Calgary Stampeder.
Nealon Green, 6 receivers out. Dumps it off underneath. And the catch made by Jason French, and he's wrapped up quickly by the former Rough Rider, George White.
The difference between the problems for Calgary offensively and the problems for Calgary so far defensively have been between mental and physical. Offense, they've had some mental problems. They've made mental mistakes. On defense, it was assignments. It looked like they've shorn up both.
2nd down, there's French, another catch across midfield, and a first down. Brian Clark the tackle, and Saskatchewan desperate to get something on the board, make that first half score look a little better.
They have time. I mean, you look at 51 seconds, you've got time to move right down the field, but Nealon Green is using up a lot right now just getting a play call.
I was going to say no huddle, hurry up, but it didn't look like they were in a particular hurry. Now he goes to work wide side, and Corey Grant drops 1. So we've seen a couple of those in the first half.
And Corey Grant, again, that's another, the changes. Corey Grant goes outside. You've got Matt Dominguez, he's out of the lineup.
Karsten Bailey,
yeah, he's out of the lineup. And Corey Grant, one of those guys that comes in as a 6th receiver at times and forced to start and play every down.
There's the comparison so far tonight. 2nd and 10 out of the gun. Pressure, and they've got him. Sheldon DePasta The North Battleford, Saskatchewan native celebrates a sack.
Well, it works together because on the play, Travis Moore is wide open over the middle, and Nealon Green just does not have time to get the football out there. Here's the big man, Sheldon Napustuk, right in the middle. And he just splits the double team as Rob Lazio takes a step to his left and leaves the nose guard to go straight from point A to point B. Point B being Nealon Green. And Travis Moore over the middle is wide open at first down territory, and Green has no chance to complete the pass.
Already the third sack of the year for the nose tackle. And Saskatchewan, or check that, Calgary has had good numbers sack-wise on the season. Coming into this game with 13.
All right, we're taking this to the house. Let's go.
Callum off the side of his foot.
Well, you know, that may change things. It looked like both teams were going to just go in at halftime. 4 seconds left. Now they're going to try and see where this is. If Henry Burris can complete a quick one, he can maybe get Sandro DeAngelis in field goal range.
Just a 20-yard punt.
Now with a big lead, Calgary may just decide, you know what, 27-4 at halftime is a pretty good start. Let's just go in and...
Yes, that's the indication here. They'll just take a knee and savor their best half of football this season. Well, let's wait and find out. We haven't done it yet. They only got 2 seconds off the clock there, so they'll have to put down another knee. And now we can make the first half official. Well, Henry Burris, everybody wanted to know what he would do against his former team. He scores 2 touchdowns, throws for another, building a 23-point halftime lead.
And that does feel good. Nobody's writing off Saskatchewan here. We've seen way too many comebacks, and they're far too good a team for that. But a 23-point lead at the half, you bet. That feels pretty good for Henry Burris. Jock Climbey, Matt Denny, and Chris Schultz along with me. Let's start with the main story. Everybody wanted to see how he'd do, and he looks great tonight.
He looks great. He really does. I mean, that was the best half of football for Henry Burris since he has signed a contract with the Calgary Stampeders. A lot of his success has been that attention to detail before he even releases the ball. Look at fake number 1, the fake pitch, moving a defense one direction. Fake number 2, the fake handoff, making them freeze their feet for a moment. Then see how he holds the ball in the hip? That makes another moment of hesitation. Where the heck is the football? Well, there's the football, guys, in the end zone to the receiver. Great play by Henry Burris. 3 excellent executed fakes. He is on. He's doing well. He's doing really well.
He is doing well, but he's getting a lot of help because of scheme and execution, and both those things are working very well. And I'm going to show a play here where actually he now completes the handoff on the same play that Chris Schultz just showed. They're showing some imagination on offense, and I'm going to show you how the effect of what happens on the pitch. Here is Jenkins in the backfield, and he's going to affect the end, Jeriniak, with the fake pitch. And watch how this widens Jeriniak because he goes for the fake. Oh, it's an inside handoff. Now, Reynolds is getting some help. Watch the tackle, or the right guard pull and kick out on the end. Here you're going to see Taylor Robertson pulling and kicking out Adams on the end. And finally, the last guy to watch is Reggie Hunt in the middle. And see how he is affected, again, by Reynolds on the underneath handoff. Reynolds now cuts inside him and leaves him suck and win. Now, this is a great example of how scheme and execution combine for success.
Sucking wind.
Sucking wind.
I haven't heard that one in a while. I'm going to let you get away with that one, Jock.
Well, I don't want to use your expression, which is not appropriate for TV there, Matt.
Well, I'll tell you what hasn't been working well for Saskatchewan is what they've been executing and making plays this far into the season. And they haven't been able to do it on the road, and you must do it on the road. And we'll show you them right here. Travis Smith. Sure interception, it goes Calgary's way. Critical first down for them to keep the drive alive. Then you go back here, you've got Terrell Jeriniak. He can't pick up a fumble. You must make these plays when you're on the road. Kenton Keith, open field stumbles. He's got a walk-in touchdown there. You're in the red zone. Jason Frentz puts the ball on the ground. You're Saskatchewan, you're in hostile territory. Calgary's got everything working that they hoped would work from the beginning. It's going in their favor, and Saskatchewan, as Dave, is not helping themselves out by making plays that we've seen them make thus far in the season.
And taking advantage of mistakes. The interception by Dave and Bush, they couldn't do anything with that, whereas Calgary took advantage of Nealon's fumble. Beaten team in the league, top spot in the West, and Hamilton is 0-4.
But some positives, I think, for Hamilton coming out of that game. Troy Davis, first of all, over 100 yards for the first time, and where's he been all season? And Craig East, he had 138 yards, and that's more than he's had in all the games combined. So some positives.
Like the highlights I was showing you about Saskatchewan not making plays that they need to make, and Hamilton trying to get off the schneid and get a win at home. They needed to make some plays, and they actually had 2 touchdowns taken away on one a offensive pass interference and one on a formation miscue. And so you can't afford to have those things happen, especially against a team that's playing so well like BC.
Well, I think BC, actually, this was a big win because they were playing a team that was desperate, and it's so difficult to go into a team's home park that's desperate and get a win.
As Montreal found out.
That's correct. So I think that was a key issue. For Hamilton, I am telling you right now, life is miserable. There's a lot of tension on that football team. There's a lot of talk that maybe the attitude of the team is not where it should be, that perhaps the players should show up a little bit earlier and perhaps leave a little bit later. And
that's always a big issue, isn't it, when you're losing?
It is.
Everyone starts looking around trying to figure out where's the problem. Is it work ethic? Is it lack of talent in the room? Is it coaching?
Jack, when Ron Lancaster, I talked to Ron Lancaster when he had the 1-17 football season. He says, we can't work any harder. And you know, people are asking, well, can you do more? You can't do any more. You go in there, you prepare like a professional, and you try to go out there and execute, and they're just not executing right now.
And they're at Edmonton next week. Anybody want to say a quick word about the game last night? 932 net yards of offense between the Als and the Bombers. Winnipeg got their first win, 51-46.
And a much-needed win, Dave. A much-needed win there at Canadian Stadium. You needed that, and they went out there and they made it happen. The defense wasn't as strong as we saw, but they're going up against Montreal and AC. They fought back.
They were playing with urgency and desperation, and that's what got them over the hump.
And the Als now tied with the Argos, 2-2 atop the East. Those two will go head-to-head next week. We got that one for you. Here's the Boston Pizza CFL poll question that we asked you earlier tonight. So what do you think? Saskatchewan's better off with Nealon Green instead of Henry Burris? And wow, 73% heavy log-on factor from Saskatchewan tonight say, yeah, we'll take Nealon, and there's still a half of football to go. However, the story through 2 quarters at McMahon is definitely the guy wearing number 1 red. Henry Burris has his team well out in front, 27-4.
Net yards, rushing in, first downs. Everything says they should continue to roll in the second half. I'm not convinced. I think Saskatchewan has too many character players to give up now. This game will end up being close.
That's a nice lead for Tom Higgins. Let's see what he had to say to our Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, guys. Coach Higgins, can you explain the breakout performance in this first half by Henry Burris?
No, but it's something that we've been waiting for, and I think he's getting a lot of support. We're able to run the football, which really helps us throwing the football down the field, and the wind's dying, so it's going to make for a nice second half.
Talk about how that helps the passing game, being able to run against the best running defense in the league so far.
Well, they're experiencing some challenges with all the different personnel that they have, and we thought that we might have a chance. That's one of our strengths that we've exhibited over the first couple of games that we played, that we've had an opportunity. We've been running the ball fairly well. We thought we had a couple of wrinkles where we could be successful, but the running attack opens up your throwing.
Thank you very much, Coach.
You're welcome.
Matt, Tom Higgins said something there that you said to me a minute ago. Everybody's touching the ball.
Everybody's touching the ball. Copeland, Reynolds, Jenkins, Rambo, Lewis, Juhas, Ralph. They're all getting her done.
Although you heard Chris Schultz talk about maybe the possibility of a comeback. Right now, let's head to the sidelines and join Jermaine Franklin.
Coach Barrett, 24 yards rushing in the first half. Your bread and butter, no way to start the game.
Well, you know what? It's not even about our offense. It's about our defense right now, stepping up and making plays to nullify what they're doing. And offensive, we just need to take advantage of field position more than anything else.
Thank you very much, Coach.
You got it.
So the defense absorbing most of the blame for the first half. A defense that was number 2 in points allowed, 15.5 a game coming into this night, and number 1 against the run.
Well, and I agree 100%, Chris, with Matt Dunnigan at halftime when he said it's just a matter for Saskatchewan of the fact that they're just not making the plays that have been available to them. It would be a lot closer game if they catch one here, if Kenton Keith doesn't trip in that corner. It's a lot of plays to be made out here, and there still is in this second half.
Paul McCallum gets things started. Ronnie Jenkins from inside his 15. And Jenkins up across the 35 with a flag down on the play. So a 23-point lead for the Stampeders. And you did hear Mr. Schultz. So we've seen a few comebacks this year, including one last night that ended up falling short.
Yeah, we did see Montreal came crashing, about 25 points in the second half against Winnipeg. They did fall short, but they made it a game. In fact, they tied it up. Ottawa came back against Montreal. Saskatchewan has a good football team. They're good in both the offense and defensive lines, and this game is far from over.
And again, the significance with the BC Lions winning tonight. Edmonton had won earlier this week, and Saskatchewan was hoping to keep pace and post win number 4. Holding call against the Stampeders on the kickoff, so they will start at their own 23-yard line. Burris looks to Brett Ralph, second catch of the night for the youngster out of Raymond, and he'll be pushed back by Devin Bush as we compare the two quarterbacks and their numbers.
Well, it's been all the talk for the entire week. The two quarterbacks, Nealon Green, Henry Burris. Henry Burris, so far in the first half, has the edge. The completion percentage is pretty close. Yardage and that touchdown pass is what stands out for Henry Burris. He's made the plays, especially those last two series of the first half. Nealon Green has to go back to their game, which is mixing run and pass.
6 yards for Ralph. And 2nd and 4 for the Stamps. Joffrey Reynolds high steps it across the 35. And Reynolds up to the 43-yard line.
You know, and when you look at this Calgary offense, maybe the biggest factor tonight and their biggest factor in the turnaround is the fact that Joffrey Reynolds is going again. I mean, he's been their bright spot. I talked about that early on, but Joffrey Reynolds has allowed Henry Burris to get more time, because if Joffrey Reynolds is successful, Henry Burris can go with play action, which gives him more time back there to throw.
Roughriders surrendered just 9 yards rushing last week with Troy Davis. Here's Burris throwing over the middle, and Copeland's got a catch with David Bush on his back.
Well, Jermaine Copeland is one of the best receivers in the league, but maybe the most confident. And he's going to make catches like this, and I asked him before the game, I said, how's Henry Burris? How's it going with your relationship? He says, we will be fine. We had a good practice. And then he goes, well, we had a good practice last week too, and it didn't work out. But I'm real confident in my quarterback, and boy, he's confident in Copeland.
Here's Reynolds, huge hole, Joffrey Reynolds pounding it down inside the 35, and if Danny Barrett was concerned at halftime, that concern has only increased. Reynolds going over 100 yards with a 21-yard scamper.
And again, you talk about the change of the Saskatchewan defensive line. Fred Perry is blocked. He's the guy who's diving for Joffrey Reynolds' legs right there. Normally is David Benefield, and this year David Benefield has made that play.
Well, Nate Davis being missed here tonight, and here's Reynolds into the secondary. Joffrey Reynolds, touchdown! 34 yards.
Danny Barrett said it at halftime. Hey, it's not our offense that's the problem right now. It's our defense. And Joffrey Reynolds just cut through that defense like knife through butter. He was gone. That's the Joffrey Reynolds drive right there. Watch the move in the open field. You're going to love this one. Little cutback right against the flow. Scott Gordon, the safety. And Joffrey Reynolds, pay dirt.
34 on the touchdown run, 21 the play preceding, 55 on the drive for Reynolds. DeAngelis adds the point after. Well, it became clear in the last 5 games of last season that the Calgary Stampeders had found themselves an impressive running back, and Joffrey Reynolds is on a rampage tonight.
He's getting some help up front as well, and we talked about, okay, Saskatchewan's made some changes, but let's give some credit to that Calgary offensive line.
Corey Holmes. And Holmes with a burst across the 40 and all the way up to the 48-yard line before Brian Clark brings him down. Let's take another look at the touchdown.
A little blocking help from the O-line for Joffrey Reynolds, because you're going to see some great ones right here. There's Pilon. Look at that seal. The kick out from Robertson right there, and now the lane created for Joffrey Reynolds. You just can't block it any better. Reggie Hunt gets pancaked by Robertson, and Joffrey Reynolds has to make one guy miss in the open field, and that's Scott Gordon.
So 135 yards on 12 carries for Reynolds.
Number 28, Kenton.
Inside Corey Holmes, not much there against a stout Calgary defense.
Well, they're good running backs, and what they'll tell you is they just need that one block at the line of scrimmage. You get them past the line of scrimmage, they'll do the rest, and this is a nice look from behind. And that's what a lot of the Saskatchewan Roughriders were seeing too. The name tag of Joffrey Reynolds as he went into the end zone.
So before this night is done, he might be the new rushing leader in the Canadian Football League. Second down, Nealon Green to the sidelines, incomplete. Intended for Elijah Thurman.
Yeah, and that's a tough catch for Elijah Thurman, but one when you're on the road, again, like Matt Dunnigan talked about at halftime, you've got to try and make that play, because what happens is it gives your team, even though they're way back, gives them some confidence, and Danny Barrett just hasn't seen his team make those plays tonight.
So Paul McCallum back in to punt. In fact, the Stamps have been so efficient tonight, we haven't seen their punter, Burke Dales. Ronnie Jenkins at his 15. Straight up, 15 yards on the return to the 30-yard line. Here early in the third quarter. A local food bank. Every sack helps Purolator tackle hunger across Canada, and a couple of Canucks with sacks tonight. Randy Chevrier and Sheldon Napastic, and so the Stampeders are showing well in the Purolator totals so far this year.
And without Nate Davis, Saskatchewan slipping down to last place in the sack race.
First 6 possessions tonight for Calgary, 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and then at the end of the half, Burris took a knee. Here's a pass, and there's a guy making a play, Nick Lewis, who stole the ball away from David Bush. Looks like that might have been picked off.
Yeah, David Bush had a chance at it, and again, the Saskatchewan Roughriders come short in making a play that could have turned and got some momentum back for him. David Bush has had to move. Now, he's played corner for the last couple of games. In fact, when Ladolfius McCalla came back in the lineup tonight, it actually facilitated 3 different changes. McCalla goes back to the corner, that's one. That moves Santino Hall from halfback up to linebacker, and David Bush now goes back to halfback. So 3 changes with the return of Ladolfius McCalla.
8 for Lewis, 2nd and 2. 2 back set. And Reynolds, nice cut. Found a hole, has a first down, and still going, surging up to the 47.
But without question, and I'm going to leave this after this one because it's enough, because your backups you got to expect to play. But without question, the biggest loss for the Saskatchewan defense has been Nate Davis. Because what Nate Davis does in the middle when he gets penetration, number one, he demands a double team every time. And then you put him beside Scott Schultz, and now you've got a tandem that get a push up the middle, that leave one-on-ones on the outside and allow those guys to get matchups on running backs, and they get some pressure. Without Nate Davis, they just haven't had it tonight.
Blitz picked up, Burris looking deep, looking downfield, and he's got his man. Gerald Harris with the catch in behind Ladolfius McCalla.
You know, Gerald Harris makes this look routine, but it is not an easy catch, folks. He has got to look over his left shoulder as he runs down the right sideline. Now Henry Burris on the run, throws the ball over the opposite shoulder. He flips his head over the other shoulder, comes around and makes a great catch. And a nice throw on the run from Henry Burris to put it where the defender, Ladafius McCalla, is not. That is a tough catch that Gerald Harris makes routine.
55 yards. Burris to Harris. First and goal inside the 10. And Reynolds pounds it to the 5. Well, the one thing I wondered about Burris tonight, we saw it in week 1 when he just gets overly excited. And he was pumped, clearly, early in this game, but we haven't seen that rash of overthrown passes tonight. He's been on his game. And now up to 80% efficient on what will be his best night of the year.
Well, clearly having him roll out and throw more on the run tonight than he has all season has helped him.
And now second and goal from the 5, and Henry wants to confer with Steve Barato.
You know, it's almost like Steve Barato going into this game said, okay, I've got a quarterback that's nervous. I got a quarterback that is so pumped up, that wants to deliver so much for this city on every play, that I got to figure out a way to calm them down. You know what you do with your kids when they're real little and they get all excited and they got all pent up energy? You get them outside and you get them running around doing something, because by then they get real tired, they go to bed at night and they'll finally sleep. Well, I think that's what he's done with Henry Burris. He said, okay, look, he's all excited, let's get him running. Get him out there running, maybe gets a little tired, he's breathing hard, and you'll just relax and throw the football.
Well, he's been on a roll, and he's also run for a pair of touchdowns. Let's see what Steve Barato has come up with here on second and goal. Into the corner, Reynolds, touchdown! And the slicing and dicing continues here at McMahon.
Boy, this has turned out to be an old-fashioned butt kicking. And it doesn't appear that the Saskatchewan Roughriders have an answer at all. They just cannot get a stop. Joffrey Reynolds has been the key. Henry Burris has delivered.
Burris with his second touchdown pass. Reynolds his second major score. One on the ground, one through the air. DeAngelis adds the extra point. And it's a 41-4 Stampede. Well, you can vote for the Rogers player of the game tonight. Text message your vote using your Rogers phone during the fourth quarter and send to Go CFL. Joffrey Reynolds will certainly be a candidate tonight, and this is a marquee attraction on this evening.
Well, to me, Joffrey Reynolds has been the key, and Henry Burris is the guy that put the key in the ignition and just turned it over and floored it.
7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Holmes up over the 35-yard line, nailed there. 30 yards on the return as we take another look at the touchdown pass from Burris to his running back.
Well, this works well for Henry Burris because what he has is Jermaine Copeland going deep along with Nick Lewis, and Joffrey Reynolds just goes out into the backfield. So the secondary for Saskatchewan have to respect the two receivers. They drop off. Joffrey Reynolds gets the touchdown. Good play calling tonight from Steve Barato to help his quarterback out, not only to break up some of those nerves, but get Joffrey Reynolds involved again.
Steve Barato said his team had stage fright on offense when they got into the scoring zone. Well, they're getting used to it. Maybe they needed a full house. Elon Green trying to get something going. Corey Holmes usually a good way to start.
Well, the full house is going to call for the encore, because this is what the Calgary fans have been waiting for, and that's a breakout game from their offense. And last week, their defense had a bad one, and all of a sudden people were going, oh, Calgary fans were like, we always kind of lived on our defense. That was what kept us in ball games. In fact, our defense at times was scoring more last year than our offense was, but we don't have an offense.
2nd and 3. Green play action in the flat. Jason French. And he's out of bounds. A first down into Calgary territory.
You know, and this place was packed. I mentioned off the top that sold-out McMahon Stadium, and about a third of the fans are wearing green and white. Now, having said that, according to the Calgary Stampeders, they probably could have sold another 10,000 for this one. I mean, the phone was ringing off the hook. The parks and parking lots all around McMahon Stadium were jam-packed with tailgaters. It's exactly what football in the summer should be all about.
First down, Green. There's Jason French. And another catch, another Saskatchewan first down as Nealon Green tries to engineer his first scoring march of the night.
You know, and one more on that is that, again, Calgary Stampeders lifting the blackout. It's when the blackout is lifted on a sellout, now the entire province and all of the surrounding area here in Calgary, who were worried about their football team, have watched their football team hand a good team in Saskatchewan. Good old butt kicking so far.
11 for French as Saskatchewan's moved it down to the 37. Time for Green. He'll look deep and overthrow Jason French in double coverage. Once again, we'd like to welcome the Canadian Armed Forces viewing on Armed Forces Network. Wherever they are posted around the world, it's our pleasure to bring you the games. And also to our American viewers. I know they're watching CSN Chicago tonight, where the former Bears quarterback, Henry Burris, has been a big story. 2nd and 10 for the Roughriders. And there's a completion. Elijah Thurman. Let's see where they'll mark his forward progress. They'll be short of the first down.
It's go time, though. You're down 41-4.
Yard or two. It looks like just a yard short.
A yard or 10. You got to believe Danny Barrett's going to want to go for it here. Try to get something going. Try and finish his drive.
Chris Zarka, Kent and Keith both check in. And here we go. 3rd and 1. Nealon Green himself gets outside and easily moves the sticks to the 21-yard line.
Yeah, and this play is a nice one because one, Nealon Green has the speed to get outside. The other is you need one block, and that one block is going to come from Kenton Keith right here to get out here. If he doesn't get this block on the outside, Nealon Green might be caught because he loses 3 yards. But a great, watch this block right there by Kenton Keith on Brian Clark. If he doesn't make that one, Clark gets Nealon Green, may hold him short.
There's Holmes inside.
Number 19.
3 yards for Corey Holmes on that gain.
You know, but this is what Saskatchewan has done offensively this year. You see how Nealon Green runs to the outside. Sometimes that ball goes inside to Holmes. Sometimes it goes inside to Keith. Sometimes Nealon Green will pull it out of there and take it outside. They just haven't. They got away from it early in the first half. Didn't make the plays they had to make in the passing game, and now find themselves down 41-4.
And they've been in a lot of 2nd and longs tonight. 2nd and 7 here. Green delivers a completion. French near the goal line and twists down to the 2.
Now, this is a good one for all the young football players watching this game because Jason French took a pretty big hit early on, so he shows a lot of toughness just to come back, but he catches this ball the way it's supposed to be caught. I mean, here's Jason French. Now, watch how he catches the football. The difference here is he turns out, he catches it with his hands. He uses his hands out in front of his body and doesn't let that ball hit his shoulder pads, because if it hits his shoulder pads, there's a chance to bounce out of there. That's textbook.
Joey Bose prevented the touchdown. Now Nealon Green plunging ahead. Doesn't get to the goal line, and flags are down on the play. French battling through a lot of adversity in this game. A drop early, in deep, and then knocked cold, it would appear, for a short period of time, but he's been their best receiver tonight.
Yeah, he has, and you know, he's gone back to the fundamentals, because when you start to struggle, if you drop one, you get hit, and You're trying to get the cobwebs out. Go back to the fundamentals, and that's what he did on that catch to get him down the goal line. He went to fundamentals, catch the ball with your hands, make a window with your hands, look through that window to the ball, and make that catch with soft hands, turn it in. That's perfect textbook.
Stamps were offside on the play. This, the 10th play of Saskatchewan's drive, as Nealon Green tries to push it over. And he'll follow the block. Green, does he break the plane? Yes, but there is yet another flag. And it would appear that it's going against Calgary.
– 90% of the time, outside of the goal line is against the defense. And the reason for it is that they're trying to anticipate the snap count or trying to cheat because they know it's pretty much inevitable that an offense should be able to get a yard when you have to give them a yard. And you can see this time it's the Calgary Stampeders that had their hand in that neutral zone.
So McCallum on to add the extra point. And so Saskatchewan does get something going on offense here late in the third quarter.
2 weeks ago, you looked at that game and thought, well, that could be a tough one because on paper, what's happening right now, the Lions may roll right over Calgary. And all of a sudden, Calgary has an offense. They have Joffrey Reynolds. They have a more relaxed Henry Burris. That's going to be a game.
Suddenly the West that looked like it was going to be a three-team race has Calgary joining the party and Winnipeg knocking at the door saying, you know, we're not a bad football team either.
Well, they're not. And, you know, you look at Winnipeg with that win against Montreal, they really, a lot of people, you could argue they should have won the game in Edmonton. You know, they got some breaks, but they also earned a lot of those breaks. So it could be a little different, and they're not out of it because they are a better football team, and they're a better football team with Kevin Glenn at the helm.
And it was quite clear arriving at McMahon today that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers got the attention of the Calgary Stampeders, who did not want to be left in a tie with the Bombers after this evening. And Mr. Reynolds continues to generate offense. He looks like the full package here, and clearly they found somebody to replace Kelvin Anderson. It took a couple of years, but it looks like Joffrey Reynolds is here to stay.
Well, yeah, and because Joffrey Reynolds arrived so late last year and had to learn the offense, really couldn't take advantage of his skills last year.
Second down, and in the flat, a completion. Kenyon Rambo has the catch, and a first down at the 50. Well, this night was all about Henry Burris playing against his old team, and the comparisons with Nealon Green, and we talked to the Calgary quarterback about that.
People forget I wasn't the starter. I wasn't the starter at the beginning of the season. I was the backup. So, and Nealon's been in the offense for 3-4 years now, being his 4th year. So he knows the offense inside out. Do I know the offense here inside out just as he knows that one? I would say no. You know, I've been in this offense now a couple of months, and you know, we're getting better each and every time we step on the field, but we just haven't been consistent.
Well, they have been consistent tonight, that play notwithstanding, and it appears that Henry Burris is indeed getting the handle on this Steve Barato offense.
Well, and Henry Burris said at the beginning of the year when he signed the big contract that he was making, everyone talked about his money and that he was making big-time money now, and money that the elite quarterbacks in the league are making. And he said, I need to be considered as one of the elite quarterbacks. Well, in the first 3 weeks, you couldn't do that.
2nd and 10 on what could be the final play. Look out, Reggie Hunt just steamrolled Henry Burris.
You know, and you know, Burris gets sacked there, and he coming into this game with his first 3 starts, Henry Burris numbers weren't reflecting the big-name quarterbacks in the league. When you look at the efficiency ratings, those are the top 4 heading into this week. Dave Dickinson, Damon Allen, Kerry Joseph, Ricky Ray. Look at their touchdowns to interception ratios, and that's why when you look at Henry Burris's, he just wasn't going to be considered as one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Tonight, he is changing that.
Birkdale's first punt of the game comes on what should be the final play of quarter number 3. Corey Holmes reverses field and unfortunately was slowed up by one of his own men. He might have been able to turn the corner. That's it. We're 3/4 home, and it's all Calgary.
Not only an offense, but a great offense. 4:49 in 3/4.
We start the 4th quarter. Saskatchewan coming off their touchdown march, and coming around was Corey Holmes, and a short gain there as John Grace made the tackle. And I want to know how you approach games like this. 4th quarter, you're down by 30. You're already thinking about next week. What kind of approach does Saskatchewan have?
You know, in the early 80s, Chris, with Saskatchewan, we went through some seasons where we played a lot of games where we were at the wrong end of these kind of scores, and you just keep battling. You keep battling because you're looking at next week. You're thinking, we got to keep getting reps, and we're going to play this team again. Let's not lie down.
2nd and 9. Here comes the rush. Green just got it away and overthrows Elijah Thurman. Demetrius Maxey bringing the heat.
Well, and that's the one, and Nealon Green is slow to get out. Now, I don't think it was intentional from Demetrius Maxey. I don't think it was intentional. He was going down, but he hit Green low in the legs as he delivered that throw. And Green is jogging off the field, but it took him a while to get up from that one.
Well, about a year ago at Taylor Field, the Roughriders put one on the Stampeders to the tune of 48-16. So there's enough Stampeders that absorbed that loss that might want to keep heaping a little more pain on the scoreboard tonight. As that kick from McCallum bounces out of bounds with Ronnie Jenkins unable to make a play, and they'll spot it at the 39-yard line. 46-yard kick by McCallum. But you can feel a collective sigh of relief as far as Stampeder fans are concerned about a sputtering offense, because this is the potential that everybody saw. It's only one day.
Well, now, and you wonder how much it helped that Tom Higgins made it public that he may make a quarterback change.
Here's Reynolds, and this time Fred Perry wraps him up behind the line of scrimmage.
You know, it's a fine line, I would think, especially with the quarterback position. And Matt Dunnigan, probably one of the best to explain it. I know we've talked about it. As a quarterback, you can't be always looking over your shoulder. You got to feel like you have the confidence of the team. But at the same time, Tom Higgins is saying, listen, he's got to produce, and we like Jason Gesser. You know, we'd like to see him play. Now, how much did him pushing him by making that public?
And the irony of that was that the biggest reason Henry Burris came to Calgary was so he was guaranteed the job and didn't have to worry about whether it was going to be Green one week or Burris the next. But you're right, Tom Higgins put a little heat on Henry Burris this week.
Henry's our man. Henry is our starter. But if it were to get to a point where we just aren't getting anything happen, well, that's the time to shake it up. Let somebody else have a chance, and that would be Jason Gesser. He's our number 2, and let Henry sit back, let Jason have 2, 3, 4 series, and then put Henry back in and let him become productive.
Well, Henry changed the coach's plan tonight.
Well, he certainly has, but you know, when he was asked about that and about Tom Higgins talking about it, he said, and he was asked how he felt about it, he said it'd be like waking up from a bad nightmare.
Holmes with a flag down on the return. And we will take a break. 2.5 minutes into the 4th quarter. Look at the Saddle Dome. They'll be turning the lights back on there soon.
They're going to put the ice back in, aren't they?
After, well, no, there was ice there last year. I was going to say after a year absence, but yes, the Calgary Hitmen will not be the only team playing there.
There you go.
Next year. Saskatchewan at the 26-yard line. First down underneath, and Corey Holmes has been the busiest man tonight. Scott Coe there defensively.
Well, this is the other thing, you know, coaches a lot of times will look at game tapes when you know, they look at them all the time, but when a team is being blown out, coaches will look at tapes and they want to know, does anybody just sort of lay down? Does anyone quit? Because that's one of the things that even when it looks like it's hopeless, you want to see guys still playing hard. Another reason that Saskatchewan just can't lay down.
2nd and 3, Jason French, who clearly hasn't done that tonight. He has been one of Saskatchewan's best, a first down catch. You know, the Roughriders came in here on a 3-game winning streak, which will end tonight. This is more like those days in the 90s when Danny Barrett was a quarterback for the Stampeders, and the Roughriders just couldn't win here. They were 0-17 through the 90s in the regular season. Saskatchewan fans will say, well, remember that playoff game in 97. Kenton Keith spins off one hit, and he's up to the 48. Keith with 5. But a win tonight since 2000 will give Calgary a record of 24-23 at McMahon. So a far cry from the 1990s when it was virtually impossible for a road team to come in here and win. And Tom Higgins trying to reestablish that home field domination that was really the hallmark of the team of the 90s.
Well, that's what coaches tell you. You want to go 9-0 at home and split your road games. Best case scenario, and you know you're in the playoffs if you do that. And you've established that home field dominance.
Pass for French, and it is a catch, and it should be a first down, and that's his 8th of the night. So Jason French continues to be Nealon Green's favorite. 23 catches on the year already. Top Canadian last year.
Well, and Jason French has picked it up, and what's a bit of a surprise is that Travis Moore, we have not talked about a whole bunch tonight, the former Calgary Stampeder, and he's had success against Calgary in his last 2 games as a Saskatchewan Roughrider against Calgary. He had over 200 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. So, you know, sometimes players really feel comfortable playing against certain teams, and I was looking for Travis Moore to maybe have a big game against his old teammates, but it's been Jason French, not Travis Moore.
First down catch by French. And now Nealon Green. That ball swatted down. He was looking for Kenton Keith, but Raheem Abdullah got a paw up. He had 6 knockdowns a year ago. And the big defensive end at 6'5" is very adept at that very play.
You know, he may be one of the best defensive linemen in the league, if not the best at it. I mean, it was uncanny really last year with that defensive line in Edmonton, how many knockdowns Abdullah had, and he just has a knack for getting up there. Some guys have a knack for blocking punts. He has it for blocking passes.
2nd and 10. Green looking for Travis Moore that time in traffic. Scott Coe was in the neighborhood, and it falls incomplete.
Yeah, Danny Barrett thought that Scott Coe arrived early and complained a little bit to the officiating, although the road back is a long one for the Saskatchewan Roughriders right now, and that play probably not going to change the outcome.
Saskatchewan home next week to the Ottawa Renegades. Paul McCallum high, angled punt, and fielded at the sideline by Rambo, and he steps out of bounds. Tom Higgins described last week's loss as a step backwards, 1 step back to take 2 forward tonight, as his team has made a statement that all the preseason hype might be fulfilled here. Well, not all the preseason hype, because there was a lot of hype here.
Yeah, and there's reason for the hype.
There's a pass intended for Harris.
You know, there's good reason, Chris, for the hype, because when they looked at their athletes coming through training camp, they thought, you know, we have enough athletes that we should have a good season. And you think about last year, Joffrey Reynolds, Matt Dunnigan's coaching staff was the guys that went down to a combine in Florida, NFL Europe combine in Florida, found Joffrey Reynolds, watched him play in a couple of exhibition games, and said, yeah, Victor Ike's not getting it done for us. We got to bring Joffrey Reynolds in. So they bring in him. Of course, that same coaching organization brought in Nick Lewis. You look at those guys, bring in Henry Burris, Jermaine Copeland, expectations are high. But what happened in the first 3 weeks of the game, of the season, I should say, is that they were good athletes. They weren't a good team. And there's a difference, because when you have 12 guys on the field, like no other game that you will watch, you have to play together to have success. They weren't doing that until tonight. They're doing it tonight.
And a team that looks like they are ready to go in and really test their mettle next week in Vancouver against the unbeaten Lions, who got tested tonight. A lot of people thought that this was an easy week of picks in the league. Winnipeg changed that last night. Tiger Cats put a scare into the Lions this evening, and most observers thought the team in green was going to prevail this evening. It has been dramatically different.
Henry Burris has found his groove, because 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns will get that for you in a hurry. I still believe the player of the game tonight has been Joffrey Reynolds.
I might argue with you on that one.
You think Henry Burris with all the pressure?
I think he was the guy that everybody was watching tonight, and he was the guy that really got this thing going. And Reynolds did a nice job of tapping it in and finishing it off. Here's Kenton Keith, tough man to bring down, and finally getting tackled at the Calgary 36.
Well, this is what Saskatchewan fans have been waiting for from Kenton Keith, and he's been banged up, but that's been a bit of his history. And Kenton Keith has got to stay on the football field somehow. And going into the season, people with that kind of running ability that you're watching right now felt that Kenton Keith could have a 2,000-yard season, but he's got to stay on the field to do it.
Here's a completion along the sidelines. Jason French adds to his totals. The Keith play was 21 yards, and now French has 12 more.
Playing against a little different defense right now, late in this fourth quarter, than they played in the first half and the first 3 quarters. Nealon Green's numbers are decent, but he's picked up some of these numbers quite a bit, as a matter of fact, in the end of the third and into this fourth quarter, and Calgary's going to play a little more loose.
First and 10 at the 25. Low shotgun snap. Green steps up, unloads, and French straight ahead to the 6. So the Prairie offense is finally looking sharp.
You know, you mentioned Jason French again, and you know, one other point with Jason French is sometimes when you have injuries, guys that have always sort of just been role players for you are expected to step up, and a lot of times it's not until an injury happens to a star receiver that one of the other receivers does step up. This may be good for Jason French.
10-catch night for him. Now Green rolling out. He's got some space. Throws back. Touchdown. He threw it back to Jason French when it looked like the quarterback could scamper himself. But French celebrates the score.
Well, Jason French was so far behind Nealon Green, I'm just shocked at how he even knew he was still back there. Because he looked to me like he was looking straight for that end zone. Jason French is going to block right here at the top of your screen, and then he sneaks out. When he sees his quarterback in trouble, he starts running, but look how far behind he is. Nealon Green looks to the sideline like he's going to take off and run. And then that no-look pass back to Jason French.
That was sweet. And Brian Clark may have cut Green off of the pass. So a sharp play, and French has his first touchdown of the year. A couple of touchdowns for Saskatchewan in the second. Fans, a little consolation to celebrate here in this second half, 41-18. As the score looks a little better. And Kenyon Rambo,
well,
upended.
One more look at that touchdown from Nealon Green, and you mentioned the Saskatchewan fans, and as we walked in the park and I took a look at some of them, and the Rider Nation was having a pretty good time, all the ones that made it all the way and took the buses from Saskatchewan, and I'm thinking win or lose, they'll probably have fun tonight.
Yeah,
although it might have been more fun with a closer game, but I mean, you take a look at some of these guys, they're going to have fun no matter what the final score is. In fact, probably some of them don't even know what the score is.
Game, what game? Henry Burris still in, and nice catch by Kenyon Rambo.
You know, and that's the other thing that's happened tonight is that the receivers for Calgary, especially early on, made some tough catches for Nealon Green. And, you know, talking to Jermaine Copeland before the game, he told me that, I asked him, well, what is the problem? Has it just been Nealon has been so nervous? And he said, you know what, we're taking our turns. Every now and then there's a drop pass, and Henry Burris is Henry Burris too, I should say, Henry Burris, not Nealon Green. Henry Burris too nervous in games. He said, we're taking our turns. And tonight, those receivers made all those tough catches, and there's Copeland.
I mean, Rambo's catch is as nice as we've seen tonight. Nothing on the line now, but now he goes to Jermaine Copeland. My question is, shouldn't we be seeing Jason Gesser with 6 minutes to go?
Yeah, and that's a good point. If in talking to Tom Higgins, he told me that Jason Gesser took more reps during the week simply because they want him to be ready in a just-in-case mode anyway. And this is the time to get him some reps.
Early movement, looked like the right side of the Calgary offensive line jumped quick. I can hear a few Saskatchewan fans saying, hey, it's only 23 points, that they don't want to take Burris out because it's still close.
Well, the other thought is maybe that once you get your starting quarterback on a roll, maybe you keep him in there and just have that feel-good feeling for Henry Burris from start to finish. But I agree with you, Chris. I think this is a time where Tom Higgins would benefit by going to Gesser and allowing him to get some reps under live action.
1st and 15 after the procedure call, and Henry's going to take off, and he'll get down in front of Travis Smith, who had him lined up close to the first down. He doesn't have to do too much of that now.
Yeah,
and he did it smart.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been thinking about it now since you said it, and I agree with you. With the pressure that's been on Henry Burris, he is the player of the game tonight. You know, and I think Joffrey Reynolds has really helped to take some of that pressure away. And I've just been impressed with how he keeps doing what he's doing and being consistent in Joffrey Reynolds. But you're right, with the pressure that was on Burris before he got into this game, boy, he's really responded.
And here is the other star attraction, but this time Jeriniak brings down Reynolds behind the line of scrimmage. I just felt like Reynolds put this game away with that drive of his own, but Burris had really set the table all night long, and this is why it's such a formidable combination. They've got a running game here. They've got some weapons like Jermaine Copeland, and suddenly everybody seems like they're reading the same playbook.
Yeah, now, and you're not going to change my mind much this year.
So. No, I know that.
But I agree with you. And when Danny Barrett at halftime came out and said, you know, it's our defense, we've got to come up with a couple of stops. That's the problem right now. And then Joffrey Reynolds took control. But with the pressure on Burris, he responded. He got it going with his legs, and that rollout thrown on the run. Touchdown passes, touchdowns running. It's pretty much answered the critics tonight.
Burke Dales with a punt off the side of his foot. Now, can I sell you on safety being a very overrated position, do you think? No, you won't. No.
No, you can try. Hey, how about Wes Lysak's hit from that safety position last night? Wow. That was big time.
Well, Danny Barrett can't have that clock wind down fast enough right now. Under 4 minutes to go. Well, unless he thinks quick strike here and we can make things interesting. Let's see what Nealon Green does. Goes to the attack. That far side, Thurman head down. And he's run out by Jermaine Chapman and Scott Coe. Well, again, catch Wendy CFL Live Thursday night. Toronto takes on Montreal. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on TSN. And I think all the guys on the panel think that, you know, it might be the games between Toronto and Montreal that decide first place in the East. As we upset people in Ottawa are saying, wait a minute, we're in this thing.
Yeah, and they are in it. Boy, Ottawa Renegades, despite the fact that they lost their last one, you know what? They look like a team that could make some noise. in the East Division, and that race is by no means just a two-horse race right now. I mean, you look at the standings, and that shows Ottawa in the thick of it. Hamilton close to a win, but boy, they're struggling. The Ticats have to find a way in a hurry to stay in it. But
with our apologies to our friend Herb Zurkowski of Montreal, of Ottawa, not the free space on the bingo card that was initially advertised. Here's Green on second down. He has a completion. Elijah Thurman skips out, and that's a warning for Saskatchewan, entertaining Ottawa next week.
That's what I was about to say, is that's who the Saskatchewan Roughriders face next week. Now, a couple things for Danny Barrett. One is he's got to get some guys healthy if he can, because Nate Davis out of the middle of that defense obviously is going to hurt them more as the games go on and teams find ways to scheme against that. And once he gets those players back, now he's got to get that tempo and intensity back, because they didn't have it tonight.
First down for Nealon Green. Looks far side again, and Thurman didn't get the foot down and ruled out of bounds on that far side. The benches get the 3-minute warning here at McKeer in Calgary, and since early in the third quarter, it's been clear. Henry Burris wins round 1 of the matchup against his old team.
And I don't think it's so much that Nealon Green didn't have a good game tonight. Nealon Green played okay. But the fact is, Henry Burris played better tonight. He wins the first round. And Nealon Green faced a fired up Calgary defense tonight. And maybe there's where the improvements were. They got the consistency out of Joffrey Reynolds. Henry Burris played his best game as a Calgary Stampeder, but maybe more importantly, that defense may have played their best game this year.
Now, Calgary or Saskatchewan is moving the football late. It's into that prevent mode. Is this enough to take a little of the gloss off Calgary's defensive effort?
No, I don't think so, because when you look at the film, and at this point in the game with this kind of lead, the Calgary Stampeders, Chris, are playing more of a prevent. They're way off the receivers. They're allowing them to catch those 10, 15-yard outs, little curls like that one to Travis Moore. And, you know, bottom line is the defense played right now for Calgary is way different than the defense played for the first 3 quarters.
Moore with a catch close to a first down, and it looks like they are going to require a measurement. The Stampeders will even their record at 2-2. And suddenly the Western race becomes a little more interesting. It looked like there was clear separation between top and bottom. But here you see BC and Edmonton, the Lions still undefeated. And now Calgary evening their record, and Calgary with BC next week. Edmonton at BC in 2 weeks' time, so the situation could tighten up, or the Lions could really take a stranglehold.
Well, the way the schedule worked this year, we were playing across divisions this year to start the season.
Whoops! Picked it up though, and may have lost it again. It's been ripped out a second time. Who's got the football? Stampeders say they've got it.
Well, he fumbled it twice on the play, Nealon Green.
And former Saskatchewan Roughrider George White scampers to the sidelines to celebrate the fumble recovery.
You know, and when you looked at the schedule early on this year, it was a lot of West against East games to start things off, and now you start to get into the rivalry games and into the games. You mentioned Calgary and BC play next week on Friday night. Then it's Calgary, Edmonton. You know, now you start to play your divisional games. And those are the 4-point games. You've heard it before, but the games, the 2 points that you get if you win, the 2 points that they don't get when you beat them. So it becomes very important as we move on in the schedule.
Henry Burris stays at quarterback. Let's take another look at the Nealon Green fumble. Lost the handle, got it again, and then John Grace says, I want that football.
Well, it's very, very different Calgary defense than the one that played in Ottawa. And Denny Crehan basically read the riot act to this defense, and he message heard loud and clear.
Here's Burris. And Nick Lewis with a catch near the sidelines. Forced out by Eddie Davis. And Henry Burris with that completion over 300 yards on the night.
Well, boy, did he need that. I mean, you talk about the pressure coming in. He had 270 and a loss in week 1 against the Toronto Argonauts. Then they go into Winnipeg, win that game, but Burris only threw for 209 yards, and they really won that game on special teams. A big block punt by Nick Lewis, and that one was the difference, and that was early on. And then against Ottawa, the offense probably played its worst, and the defense let them down as well. Burris threw for 261 there. So to get over 300, get not only a win, but a blowout win against a division rival, against a team that many feel should be or could be a front runner as this season goes on in the Saskatchewan Roughriders, is huge for Tom Higgins and Henry Burris.
Yes, had it gone the other way, you're 1-3, and you've got BC, Montreal, Toronto, Edmonton in your schedule. So with that kind of schedule, the Stampeders needed to start hitting on all cylinders. Burris plunging ahead to get a fresh set of downs with 92 seconds left on the clock.
And through it all, other than when he talked about publicly that he may make the switch at quarterback, you know, Tom Higgins has started every sentence about Henry Burris with, he's our quarterback. That's how he started every one. Even when he said, hey, if it starts to go bad again, we're going to start to think about making a switch and letting them take a look from the sideline. But every time it was, he's our quarterback.
Jenkins with that pitch right side into the secondary and down to the 41-yard line. So they're now over 500 yards of offense against Saskatchewan on the night. An 18-yard run by Ronnie Jenkins.
Yeah, I would guess when Steve Barato with a nice smile there. Yeah, I would guess when Steve Barato counts up the tackles made by Saskatchewan tonight, when he looks at this film, he'll say all the tackles were made by the secondary. And if you're in the Saskatchewan Roughriders, that's not a good sign.
Well, it's pretty clear after a night like this that they can't get Nate Davis back too quickly, and David Benefield, suffering with the flu, should be back next week against Ottawa. That'll be a different group.
Well, you know what you get if your defensive line is dominant, your defensive line is getting off the ball and moving the line of scrimmage. First of all, what happens is they occupy all the blocks. All the offensive line blocks are occupied because the defensive line demand it with a good push. That frees up linebackers to fly around and just make tackles on running backs, and that's how you eliminate the running game. If your defensive line is not doing that, offensive linemen can block linebackers, and now DBs have to make tackles. And when that happens, guaranteed that running back's going to have a big night.
That incompletion brings up third down. And it looks like they're going to send the field goal unit on here.
Well, it's division rival. You know, and division rivals, points matter. You never know when you go down the stretch if points become an issue.
Well, there is another school of thought that would suggest.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring it up.
You take your 23-point win and you don't rub salt in the wound.
Well, and then you go back, like you mentioned a while ago, to last year.
Let's see if the kid stays perfect. There is a flag down. He's good again from 47. That's a chip shot after the 55-yarder, but what's the flag? There wasn't any pressure on that kick, but what he is doing really is extraordinary.
Number 3. Penalties decline. Field goal stand.
He's now 11 for 11, including a 47 and 55-yarder tonight. He was perfect in the preseason. He's 16 for 16 in the Canadian Football League.
And he's a rookie. And truly is amazing.
44-18. But I know a few Roughriders will be filing that field goal away for future reference.
Hey, you use everything you can, and that will be one of them.
final possession of the game for Saskatchewan. Zarka, a couple of yards. Demetrius Maxey, a Saskatchewan Roughrider for a couple of years with the tackle. And we're down to the last play or two. Jim Barker with congratulations for his head coach. Don't know if Tom Higgins' degree was in psychology, but just maybe planting that Jason Gesser seed was all this guy really needed to kickstart his game.
You know, and you got to know the personnel. Some guys like a kick in the butt. Some guys like to be coddled. The Saskatchewan Roughriders got the kick in the butt tonight.
Yes, it wasn't easy being green tonight. 44-18. The Stampeders prevail, so Calgary evens their record at 2-2. The Saskatchewan Roughriders now 3-2.
Jock Climbing, Matt Dunnigan, Chris Schultz with you following a dominant 44-18 victory. The Calgary Stampeders have officially joined the party in the West with a big divisional thumping of the Saskatchewan Roughriders tonight. And the man who was at the controls with a masterful performance joins us tonight, Henry Burris. You're always smiling, but I imagine the smile's a little bit bigger tonight. You know about all the talk going into this one. It was you against them. How much was that on your mind going into this game?
I'll tell you, just like Coach Dunnigan could tell you right there, is that all those people, they've never played quarterback before. I mean, there's never been a quarterback ever go through a season and not have a couple of games where he struggled, but it's all about how we come back from it, and that's what I learned from watching the greats like Matt Dunnigan, Damon Allen, Danny Barrett, and I've been given the opportunity to do the same thing, and I'm just blessed I was able to step it up and make some plays tonight.
Hey, Henry, Chris Schultz here, but as a football team, you guys were ready to go, and I'm wondering what happened during the week to change the level of execution so significantly. Against Ottawa, you struggled. Against this team, Saskatchewan, you all performed.
Oh, I tell you, we were embarrassed. I mean, we felt we should have put forth a better effort. I mean, Ottawa's a great team, but we felt good about our chances going in there, and they humiliated us. And we felt coming back here, playing against the Riders here at our home turf, our second home game, we wanted to make amends for that Toronto loss, and we got a great opportunity, and we made plays, and that's what it's all about, making plays. We made more plays than they did, and we got the victory.
Henry, Matt Dunnigan here. I just wanted to tell you, first of all, congratulations. Looks good on you. Looked like you came out in that game all amped up, and the guys talked about it at the park there. How important was you to take the edge off by moving around with your legs and establishing and kind of taking that edge off to settle down?
Well, I tell you, that's what film study does for you. Watching the Toronto Saskatchewan game where Damon made key runs by stepping up in the pocket, because they get such a fierce rush upfield. You can step up and they clear out. They're playing deep in zones and take off and get some yardage, and it puts more pressure on them, which enabled me to open up some holes for the receivers on the back end, and we were able to get completions that way.
Hey, Henry, it's Jock Climbing here. Great performance tonight. Congratulations. I'm wondering, for you, what was the biggest challenge coming into Calgary? Was it learning a new system and learning how to move the ball within that system, or was it getting used to the new receivers that you have?
A little bit of both. This is different from any, move I've ever made in this league. At least when I went to Saskatchewan in 2000 and came back in 2003, it was still the same offense that I actually helped put in there with Danny Barrett. And I actually had some guys there with Travis and Elijah that I knew. Here, I've never played with any of these guys. First time ever being coached by Steve Barato. But as you can see, I mean, we still had a few mistakes tonight on the interception. We got to be able to read that better and be on the same page. But, hey, it's come together, Jacques, and I know you love it when the receivers are making plays and we're hooking up.
Absolutely.
Everybody was making the plays tonight, Henry. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Friday night in Vancouver.
Hey, thanks a lot. Maybe you'll say some good things about us now.
Boy, he's getting in his licks. Huh? He's enjoying this. Look at, he's still enjoying that.
That's all right.
That's all right. Hey, when you play the way they did tonight, big game, lots of hype, and they dominated from the outset.
Yeah, but it wasn't just Henry Burris. It was all the Calgary Stampeders. I mean, Joffrey Reynolds, the offensive line, defensively, a lot of physical hits. I thought Matt made a great point about Saskatchewan early. They had their opportunities to create some turnovers and get points on the board. But once the Calgary Stampeders started to roll, this game had a level of inevitability about it, and you have to congratulate them. They were pathetic against the Ottawa Renegades a week ago, but they were outstanding this week, so give them credit for this win.
Yeah, Schultz, I talked about at the top of the show. I felt that it was important for Saskatchewan to go to their strengths and time of possession, establishing a line of scrimmage with the running game, getting Kent and Keith back, Corey Holmes being the league leading rusher. Well, Calgary completely reversed the tables on them, dominated the offensive line the line of scrimmage with their offensive line play. And Reynolds was simply fantastic. Here he gets help, obviously great block by Pilon and Taylor Robertson, and he's fabulous. He is one of the best north-south runners in the Canadian Football League. He's got a knack for low pad level, and his ability to keep his shoulders pointed north and south causes havoc on those DBs in the secondary there, John.
And does great things for Henry Burris, too. I mean, I think he was really helped out by having a running game where it's not all on his shoulders. And so Calgary clearly played a good game. You know, Saskatchewan, I don't think, played all that badly. I mean, it's not like they were making a whole lot of mistakes. I mean, Matt Dunnigan talked about the fact that they weren't making plays, and that's true. But, you know, they've got a lot of injuries. I think that was the main reason why they weren't successful tonight, because when you look at it, it's not like they were shooting themselves in the foot as we've seen teams do all season long, where they absolutely just going out throwing interceptions and fumbling and these sorts of things. That wasn't happening for Saskatchewan.
Remember that game we watched last season, August 14th? Matt was on the sidelines. It was at Saskatchewan, 46-16. You had a look that was just peeling paint, and yeah, it looked a lot like that. They ran up the score. They ran up the score on you.
Yeah, they did.
They ran up the score on the Calgary Stampeders.
They were rubbing our nose in it.
And you think there was a little...
I think there was a little bit of that going on out there tonight, but you want to finish games. Obviously, Calgary struggled a little bit, you know, and has been struggling offensively, so it's good to stay in that mindset and that rhythm and try to keep that tempo going offensively and as a team. And I think that had to play a part in it. But, Dave, I firmly believe that those athletes and some of those coaches on that staff remembered that time very clearly tonight and had a good time.
But when you talk about blowouts, though, you know, one of the things that I'm distressed to see still, why are they playing starting quarterbacks late into the fourth quarter when the game's over?
I think I just mentioned it. I think Henry's been struggling, trying to find his rhythm, and I think they want him to carry that over.
Well, what if Henry gets hurt?
Big game next week.
What if Henry
BC.
gets hurt?
He's not going to get hurt. That's part of the game.
But you know,
they got Nealon Green. They got a perfect chance to get Butler or Crandall in the game.
Get Crandall in the game. Let him work with a new system, because you know, as Montreal learned last year, if your starter goes down when it's crunch time, it's season over.
Yeah.
Get the guys some reps.
Yeah,
get them some reps.
Well, I think we're all in agreement that Saskatchewan is a very good football team.
Yeah.
They will be back. It's not like they're going to crumble from here.
Absolutely.
And they meet these guys again late in the season, October 23rd. Only 2 meetings between Saskatchewan and Calgary, and I think the Riders were already looking forward to that game at Taylor Field in October, because tonight they were steamrolled.